Over the past few years, an increasing theme in various communities has been that politics has been not so subtly entrenching itself into different forms of media, and that even the people watching, analyzing, discussing, and engaging with this content have highly politicized the discourse about media on almost all fronts. The arguments from this convo have ranged from the increasing wokeness in media, the rise of meta-hot political humor in comedies, to the secret plan of the LGBTQ+ community to convert all American children to become transgender. Yeah, this is the type of shit we're gonna talk about today. Out of all the content, opinions, and arguments on politics and media, I've never seen anyone discuss how politics became so intrinsic to modern storytelling. I've never seen someone even argue why it may be necessary to the stories that we do tell, whether it's a problem that it's even in these stories, or like I'll highlight at the end of this video, what is the best way to interpret and to adapt political themes and messaging into your story. I want to get the medium that I interact with probably the least out of the way first, because it'll probably be the shortest section in the video. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The funniest thing about American animation is that only like 5 companies produce about 70% of the content, both in shows and movies. And those are, of course, Warner Brothers, Sony Pictures, Disney/Pixar, Universal Studios, and Paramount/DreamWorks. So when it comes to any problems that you guys might have about American animation, don't blame animation, blame monopolies. But getting into the actual current state of American animation, I can definitely say that with the rise of popularity and the success of Family Guy, The Simpsons, Rick and Morty, and BoJack Horseman, we've seen a ridiculous rise in popularity and most likely the production of adult animation. And these series have adopted styles of meta and political humor in droves. Given this, in conjunction with the internet memeing fucking everybody, politicians, presidents, pop culture figures, politics itself, and it's led to the inherent intertwining of the adapting adult cartoon formula and the mass increase of politics in the cultural zeitgeist. So is that it? Just as simple as the fact that the humor in animation is starting to be geared towards more meta humor, and the more that politics becomes part of pop culture and just relevant in the modern day, they're intertwined and increase? I don't think that's the entire answer. The problem some people specifically have with these American cartoons isn't inherently the politics themselves. It's the fact that the politics, number one, seem to come from one side of the political aisle, as well as number two, the politics introducing new, safer elements into these shows. While I'll concede point number one because I don't watch enough American cartoons to know how many jokes come from the left or the right side of the aisle, I will say, first of all, left-leaning and progressive thought processes were on TV for the first 50 or so years of television, as cases by the domination of sexist characters, racial stereotypes, and the perpetuation of socialist and communist slander being broadcasted since the inception of TV and film as well as the fact that if you're mad that all you see on TV is leftist talking points portrayed by characters, then support right-leaning entertainment and media. I'd argue that's hard to find because, as outlined by either FD Signifier, Think Peace Tribe, or someone that I follow on Twitter, follow me on Twitter, Republicans don't create art like that because conservatism as an ideology is opposed to artistic expression in some ways. But to address point number two, a show having a black protagonist or a bisexual best friend or a transgender parent doesn't make the show political. Someone's identity being in a show, or even it being integral to the character's identity, it doesn't make the show or the character political. And even this is happening more in animation. Okay, let's not sit here and act like the vast majority of animated works in America don't feature white straight protagonists. So you seeing a few more chocolate chips and colored pencil flags on a cartoon isn't gonna hurt, John. And just to make it clear as well, there are characters in beloved franchises like How I Met Your Mother, Stranger Things, and even in the MCU who are one-note characters, where there's only one aspect of their identity or their characterization ever shown and that ever matters to the audience. But we don't demean those characters. But as of 2016 and up till now, and probably further beyond, I've seen more people than ever start to criticize shows because, oh, their character is just all they do is just flicking their wrist and just be gay, which is a problem, don't get it twisted, but poorly written characters or one-note characters who don't service a purpose to the plot or the story or the show being good in general are bad characters. That's across the board, period. Let's be consistent. The discussions about politics in the comic book community, God, they're just awful. Not the actual disagreements themselves, but the variety of what people are willing to read and accept in these books ranges from potentially buying a series of a recently written bisexual Superboy to never wanting to see a single gay person acknowledged in the entire world of DC Comics. For the sake of narrowing down the arguments to a single, relatively reasonable lane, I want to focus on most of the discrepancies brought up by Young Ripper 59, as I followed his career from afar just as someone who has opposing viewpoints than myself, so I'm relatively familiar with his talking points. So here are the main points from the video that I'm using. Number 1, politics in some ways have always been in comics and doesn't have to be completely removed. Number 2, politics in comics are always one-sided in favor of the left aligning with the titular hero. And number 3, politics in modern comics are too obvious and on the nose. In my humble opinion, neither of the negative viewpoints in this video have anything to do with politics. If you exchanged out a feminist in a comic book for an altruist and the sexist bad guy she's fighting with a nihilist, no one is gonna say, ah shit, I hate ideological philosophy in modern comic books and this positive is just enforcing her beliefs in this comic. I hate this shit. Nothing matters. I'm broke and depressed. That's not what's gonna happen. Everyone will say, damn, why is this person bad at writing so much that they can't write a compelling story about a struggle between two prevalent ideologies and portray them as equally viable or even just equally interesting? The problem isn't that the good guy always has the right opinion regardless of whether it's feminism, wokeness, or socialism. It's the lack of nuance in the storytelling that's existed in about the past 15 years of comic books that disables their ability to tell new stories that force the reader to internally interpret multiple sides of a societal issue as portrayed through an allegory or just through good storytelling. Media that is heavy-handed with its themes and messaging is always bad, and comics have never been an exception. It just happens to be more political themes in some books as of late. The problem with the comic book community is the fact that the problem with comic books has been misdiagnosed as a political issue rather than a storytelling issue. If comic book writers more so embrace the potential flaws in their characters' motives and their actions, and especially in their ideologies, they'd produce better stories even if they contain heavy-handed, very prevalent political agendas. Now, there's a main talking point when it comes to politics in media and in fiction in general that isn't exclusive to video games, but it's in a few titles that I play, so I'm gonna talk about it here. And it happens to be the parroting of political figures and political influencers. People will get mad because in Spider-Man PS4, J. Jonah Jameson has a podcast that's reminiscent of Alex Jones's talk show, and that they view it as a political commentary and an attack from the devs on Alex Jones and the right.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what straw you're really grasping for, but here's the thing about politics in general, okay? Since 2014, but more specifically 2016, the world has become more politicized than arguably any time in human history before. More people are socially aware of the impact that politics in general will have on their everyday life, how it influences different aspects of society, and how it rears itself into every element of the world we live in. So as a result of people becoming more politically aware, politics as a result have ingrained itself more in our modern society, into our pop culture, into our meme culture, and into our trends. Everything from the Kim Jong-un Winnie the Pooh memes to the gay frogs rant to the Donald Trump just being, well, Donald Trump. Like, this shit is everywhere in real life, on social media, and yes, in your video game, Jimmy. There's no inherent political leaning of a person who makes a Joe Rogan or Bernie Sanders reference in a video game because they're both popular figures in society. So no, Bill, it's not PlayStation leftist propaganda for Hillary Clinton to be president and Detroit Become Human. Because in 2K14, I simmed to 2024 one time, right? And Obama was still taking the White House pictures with the championship team. But this doesn't mean that 2K supported the idea of Obama overriding term limits and becoming a black American overlord king or some shit. He was just a nigga in a cutscene, in a suit, in a White House. And I took a picture with him every year because I won the championship, because I'm amazing at rebuilding teams. Hire me, NBA. You know, it's almost like people are so highly politicized that they're projecting political meaning into every part of the media they interact with. Which is funny because I was just watching a video of someone talking about how video game journalism has become more politicized in the previous decade and how he misses the days of early IGN and G4 because nowadays every GameSpot article is just talking about the political and economic state of the world. And although he made some good observations, I feel like a lot of his points could be boiled down to two very obvious statements that don't really mean anything at all. Number one, he was basically saying that the game journalists have become more politicized and have started to point out the allegories in the state of gaming franchises and gaming studios that go beyond just what's on the screen. Everything from pointing out the white grizzled protagonist that we usually get in post-apocalyptic stories like Days Gone, talking about the global pandemic and the fucking economic depression that we've been in that may have led a lot of people not to be able to purchase PlayStation 5s.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And although I do see some of the stretches that were made by the game analysts and journalists, the world is more politicized than ever, like I mentioned before. And given this awareness, even on YouTube, independent gaming analysts have become to notice and break down the underlying political theming and circumstances in games and in the industry that have been present ever since the beginning of gaming. So it would make sense for gaming journalists in a failing industry to also adapt as well. Given the fact that they are from the same society that has become more politically aware, and they're writing for a society that has become more increasingly politically aware, it would make sense for them to talk about the messaging and the prevalency of politics in games for the society that they live in and that they know of. Seriously though, the audience that they're writing for and the audience that watches these videos, and myself included, don't ignore messaging and themes in video games. So why would the people reviewing video games? The second point he made was that a lot of these gaming journalists tend to be from the same left-leaning, progressive, woke side of the crowd that is ruining gaming in general. Now this point is a whole lot of things, but firstly, I mean, he's right. Two questions: is that a bad thing, and is that new? The answer is no. Mainstream gaming journalism has always been hell-bent on satisfying the society that they write for, and the higher-ups at the companies that run Kotaku, IGN, and GameSpot hold them to. This has always been known. Nothing is new, nothing changed. All that changed was gaming got bigger, and the audience of games got younger and therefore more left-leaning, and so did everyone in the industry. You'll see a lot of people try to put these game devs and writers in the same boat of being Twitter users and Redditors, and now respond with screenshots of the virgin-ass forums niggas used to be on to set up Halo LAN tournaments and Smash sessions. Ayo. Gaming as a medium is directed towards a younger crowd. Technology in itself is an ever-changing field that requires a mind to be driven for innovation, change, and oh shit, progressives. So it would make sense for the audience to become more accepting to identity politics, allegories, political messaging, because it's more relevant. It makes sense for writers and companies to hire more of these people, mention more of these things in their articles, and care more because they exist. There's nothing wrong with adapting with people in a field, and that's all the gaming industry has done in regards to politics. The last thing I want to mention before we get to the last medium is the consistent talking point in all three of them, which is how people discuss wokeness, diversity, and political correctness. I never thought in my entire life that a group of people would find an issue or make a derogatory term to refer to people who don't purposely offend people and treat them the way they want to be treated. The idea that people find an issue with people correctly classifying people the way they want to be classified, putting people in lesser positions of luck and success into higher positions of recognition and admiration, and just respecting people to the extent of changing one word in their vocabulary is disgusting. Regardless of that though, I want to end the video talking about what I think to be the pinnacle of how to adapt politics into a medium, and that would have to be how anime does it. Beyond the fact that anime doesn't adapt American politics, because, well, I don't know if you knew this, but anime isn't made in America. The main difference between politics and anime and other mediums is the actual subject matter of the political elements in these shows. You see, the cultural differences in storytelling approaches couldn't be further than when you compare America to Japan. In America, we tend to tell more individualistic stories centered on the motivations, actions, and beliefs of a singular person. These stories sensationalize the abilities of the hero character and potentially his supporting cast, although we do have a special love for one-man teams or singular man against the world stories. And we tend to explore the individual archetype of the character. In some of the best interpretations of this, we see the main character undergo transformative character arcs, change society at large, or even subvert viewer expectations by deconstructing the said archetype of the character. Now, in Japanese media, a lot of stories tend to be more centered on a party of protagonists or heroes. But even when this isn't the case, a large percentage of Japanese games, anime, and stories tend to focus on themes that can be found and shared in the group of society at large. And the main character simply serves as the device and the driving force for analyzing and uncovering these underlying ideologies that may cause conflicts in series. Whether it be the stories that focus on Japan's conformity standards, their collectivist culture, or an exploration of ethical philosophies, all of these fall under how Japan addresses politics in media. Hell, there are anime with like main criticisms for their plot or their cast being the fact that characters don't have their individual characterization separate from whatever they represent in the series. Anime like Fate Zero, Evangelion, Death Note, and Code Geass have all been criticized for certain characters simply just being the ideology of utilitarianism, the ideology of altruism, the ideology of nihilism. Well, if you know anything about anime, you know that these series that I've mentioned are all universally praised for how they deal with ideological conflicts and politics in their story. This is because they don't individualize the discourse. They take the concepts that are widely known in society and put them in the allegories in the show that service the story as well as create compelling mirrors for real life situations. And with the right context applied, characters interjected into these stories don't have to be viewed as objectively right or wrong because of the way that they act out their different philosophies in believable ways that also clash with each other. I think if any art form has any intention of including politics, which is inherent to fictional storytelling, they should use the model given by anime over the years to adapt our very real philosophies in a very fictionally meaningful ways, to let the viewer analyze the hypocrisies, the messaging, and the underlining warnings of different parts of politics in our world. Thank you guys for watching this pretty long video in my opinion. I tried to go easy on the script, but this is a passionate topic that I've wanted to talk about for a while. So I hope you guys were able to see that and also enjoy it. I hope it didn't get too boring with a lot of the nerd shit that I decided to leave in the script and also the video eventually. So I appreciate you guys for watching. Subscribe, follow me on Twitter, leave a like on the video. Also, like I said at the beginning, leave a comment in how you decide or how you like politics to be addressed in anime, video games, American animated shows, comic books, whatever. And I just appreciate you guys just giving me the time of day once again. I will catch you guys next week. Hopefully I've been staying on this upload schedule. I'm recording this in January, so I'm ahead, getting ahead, guys. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Hope you have a good day, and peace.